Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop making another marble, and I did some prep work yesterday, so I'm gonna start into this and then gonna cut to some other video showing a little bit of what I did yesterday to put into today's marble. So anyhow, let's get going on what we've got set up here. So the piece that I made yesterday is going to go into the core of this marble, and this is basically just a honeycomb compression feature. But typically these kind of little honeycomb deals are done as a one-off on its own pendant or just a little marble that basically just has the implosion. May or may not have any backing to it or whatever. So my angle on this is just incorporating this into a Vortex style marble. So I don't know out there if this is all that commonly done. I don't think of it as something that I see a lot of. And it's not something I've done. And that's what this series is basically about, is exploring things that I haven't done just because lots of other people do it. I'm trying to show my foray into unknown techniques to me. And even the basic honeycomb compression implosion concept, I think people go at it several different ways. So we'll cut away here and show you some of that setup, come back here and put it together. So this is my little piece that I made yesterday on the end of my little skinny punty here. And I'm going to place that into the interior. And I had this put into the kiln and annealed this little piece just because I had the kiln running and whatever. And then this morning I put it into my little garage heater. So I put the piece in cold, turned on the garage heater, let it warm up. So it's had a pretty gentle journey here to this point. But at this stage, I'm going to try and marry these up. So I need my main construction rod. I need a good gather on here that's piping hot. And then the piece that we're introducing, it doesn't have to be too crazy hot. But when we bring these together, we want to start out very gentle. And let that kind of flow. Without much push and pull here. So we get the face of this kind of well connected, then I'm just going to remove this little punty connection because it's kind of hot. So it becomes kind of a central piece and a good chunk of this interior piece of glass. But this, again, is this transformation from this stage of just kind of squished together and try and get to our conical shape to our Vortex marble. So it's pretty well positioned in there. I like the way it's sitting in there right now. I did a fair amount of elongating that compression. So sometimes you would see it from this end, and I want to look down those cones. And this may not really have created a hexagonal, true honeycomb kind of design. I don't know. We'll see how this turns out. But before we go too far, I want to do a little cleanup. It's all pretty clean actually, but I do want to remove some of this extra glass at the tip because I want those cones to draw down into, instead of a lot of compression features, you want it to kind of expand out like a flower. This is kind of the opposite, trying to constrict this down to a point. Okay, now we need to kind of get this angle going on. So the depth and the scale of the Vortex marble allows us to do some things that can't quite do in a pendant. Okay, well, I don't want to actually disrupt the end points of those honeycomb parts, so we'll kind of leave it like that. I had found a little piece of stringer here. This is, I believe, it's got some disco sparkle that I thinned down in clear a few weeks ago. And I got some little leftover piece of this, so not sure how much this is going to show up in the background, but I thought, well, sometimes you want to kind of use up some color and some prep work that you've got on the bench, in my case, laying around. So why not use it up? At least a little bit of it. So I was contemplating redoing that prep work for this marble this morning, to do it all in one video take, but I thought, you know, I've already got this good piece of prep work. I did record it, so I didn't do a bunch of commentary or anything. I don't think I spoke at all during that video yesterday because I was just kind of focused on doing my task, but I did record it. So hopefully you got to see pretty much the gist of what I did there, starting out with a piece of tubing, blow out a bubble, fume it, dots on it, collapse it, condense it, rip off the tubing, and get down to a little nugget. Okay, next layer, we're going to throw some color down in the background. Got some blue spruce here. Thinking about different colors. What should I do in the background? I was tempted to do this background in orange, but I kind of chickened out. Gonna do sparkle and some spruce blue, and then just black, fade to black. Yeah, I've kind of got a bunch of stuff going on. My wife is having surgery next week, so this week I've got to run up tomorrow to Missoula and do a pre-op visit. So I got kind of some other stuff on my mind. I've got a little order I need to work on later today. A little distracted, so kind of anxious to just knock this one out. And hopefully this is still a good instruction for people, or I don't really do these trying to teach lessons here, but biggest lesson I hope to put out there is for people to be kind to one another and have some grace to share with people. The only way we get through this life with any joy and harmony is being kind and loving one another. And I am super appreciative of anyone that stops by to check out these videos. Spend some time seeing what I'm up to and how these get put together. We'll see how technology comes along, but this is the kind of artistic work that, in my humble opinion, we're a long ways from having AI or robotics take over this kind of work. Thing that people can hold in their hand, made by a fellow human being traveling on this planet. It kind of makes a place card in history of what the glass scene was like at this time in U.S. history. I've seen quite a lot of changes coming through the overall glass community for many years, and I started out with soft glass beads, and that was kind of the big scene. People ventured into some sculptural work, which is tricky to do in soft glass. And it's just incredible how fast some of these things have changed in the world of borosilicate glass, artistic work. wasn't that many years ago where we didn't even have any of these colors. I think a lot of younger generation doesn't really appreciate the fact that it wasn't really that long ago that we had very, very limited colors. And the whole thing basically kind of evolved out of scientific glass blowers who were skilled, and in their spare time, after hours or on weekends or whatever it was, they started messing around making artistic glass. And they started a whole nother generation of glasswork that was different than the studio, what was considered studio glass back in the day was soft glass furnace work. And that type of soft glass work would kind of come and go. It tended to have somebody would set up their shop, start producing some nice glass, and other people would jump in the game, and pretty soon you had an area within a community where you had several different glass blowing studios set up and competing with one another, and pretty soon they'd kind of run out of customers. And the big hot shop work, which is what I was wanting to do, it's very energy intensive work. So the operating cost is pretty high. You've got to come up with something very sellable and very interesting in order to make that really be a sustainable business. Anyway, okay, I got the black background set down, and I was going to do silver fume, but maybe we should do some gold. A chunk of gold kind of off here on the side of this rod. I think I got some going on there. All right. Got some filler rod here. Yeah, this will be fun. Like I say, before yesterday, I honestly have never done this kind of basic honeycomb implosion on tubing. Basically all of my implosion work is what people generally, I guess, prefer to be known as compression. Is all but used solid glass, not tubing. A lot of these videos I'm doing, I'm trying to sort of explore maybe a slightly different version or application or transformation of something that may be a fairly common technique or what have you. The glass is very interesting in its three-dimensional ability to transform, to fold, to switch axes. It's capable of a lot of very interesting manipulations. So I kind of come up to this edge of the color. I don't want to really seal over that edge. I just want to come up to it. In order to kind of maximize the effect of that front lens, you want this edge to be kind of a sharp edge between the inside and the outside world. So the first step is to apply that glass right up to the edge, and the next step is to kind of push it away because you don't really want a thick buildup there. And likewise on the very end of it, in order to maintain a sharp focus all the way down the well of the vortex, you want to push this clear back away from that point. And then once we got that first layer melted in, come back for another round. Well, as always, I hope everybody is doing well out there. The spring season continues to go back and forth between warm, sunny days. Last night was windy, and today is cold and windy. And signs of spring are starting to show up. But this is mid-April, still very early in our season. Like June is when things really get cranking with things leafed out and flowers coming up. We have a very short, intense growing season here. Stick's getting kind of short here. Throw some fire at it, get this to melt in. So my cameras, I do have a different camera over here on the left side recently, and I went along for quite a stretch last year, leaving the camera settings kind of the same. And just this last week or two, I've been trying to fiddle around with different camera settings. So I like what I've got dialed in at the moment. We'll see how this stays stable. Seems like every time you boot up the computer and get the gear going, things can change. And the classic is Windows updates. I can really screw everything up. Haven't had it for a little while, but oftentimes after a Windows update, the sound seems to be the most vulnerable. Any sound applications or microphone inputs have to re-establish connections. Some things in the computer world just don't seem to change. We've had some issues with one of our older inkjet printers, which is kind of the reason we got a newer inkjet printer. It's because it kept having these weird issues, and it rejects the ink cartridges and all this kind of goofy stuff. Then we went through a phase recently where I couldn't access that printer. Try and unplug it, turn it back on. That used to work pretty reliably. Now it's like, well, even that didn't get it reconnected. But lately, this week, knock on wood, it's been running just fine and connecting just fine. It always takes me back to a tech support session I had long ago, where a very patient woman on the other end of the line, obviously smoking her cigarettes, it's like, well, now you got to uninstall the print driver and reboot the computer and do this and that, and reinstall the print driver and reboot the computer and tweak this and then reboot the computer again, and it just went on and on. Got it going, bless her heart. I didn't even know what brand, what company that was, that very patiently helped me out. Yeah, likewise, we had a problem with one of our websites not coming up, and got onto our web server and went into their chat mode, and for some reason there was a little screwing around just accessing my account, but once we got that squared away, whoever was on the other end of the chat was able to see the problem, fix it up. And I don't think it was AI. I think it was an actual person helping me. I'm not sure how long that'll be the case. But as geeky as we are, there's definitely aspects that we need some help. Okay, this is getting ready to put on our backing color. We need this to settle down for a while. So for backing colors today, we've got some butterscotch and blue spruce and our purple amber color today is double Mai Tai. Alright, well, I'm kind of let it wander off center, but that's okay. Pretty close. So we'll start off with some butterscotch and ride along that edge. Break away to give room for the other lines of color. Okay, then we've got our blue spruce. A skinny little stringer here, pieced together with a bunch of little pieces. Doing that without my shades down. It's a little bright, not too bad, but then come in with our amber purple variant. These amber purple colors don't always generate the colors that I wish they would. It's difficult to control the thermal cycling that you need to really get these colors to pop. But I'll do something of interest and some variety. And the gold fume underneath will look really pretty coming up through that, because it's not a very opaque color. going to pop a few of these little bubbles. Alrighty. Kind of dark and gloomy outside at the moment. Had some sunshine beaming in not long ago. But today, kind of a busy day. Tomorrow's busy too, but after I get this marble done, I take this data in to the office and get started editing the video, come back out here to the torch shop and work on some more glass while it's processing. A lot goes on just making these silly videos, so we really appreciate anybody that's hanging out watching this stuff, and throw down a like and a comment, ask your questions. Okay, as many of these amber purples, we have to get this be scorching hot to chase out the haze. All these colors, they haze over. But if you want the color to strike, or maybe you got to get it hot enough to run clear. Alright, well, that cools down for a second. Get some water here. My mug full of marbles. We've got different t-shirt designs and mugs and whatnot down below the video. You can customize your order. I love these print-on-demand systems. You get to pick the size and the color and the graphics. You can add graphics in different locations. Okay. Ready, set, rake. It's about time to put a new tungsten rod in here. It's getting kind of short. I have to keep filing the tip on this. At some point it gets a little too close to the heat when it gets too short. For those wondering, this is just a welding electrode. I tend to just go on eBay and search for tungsten electrodes. And you get a pack of 10 or 12 of them or whatever. Okay, we come back on point on center. And pull that out, control the center. And sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I pluck off some excess. Don't want to get too aggressive doing that. Squish that in, push in that edge. Yeah, most times where it starts out, it didn't really feather very nicely, so we have to kind of push this and bust open into a big hollow spot there. When you're doing that raking, you want the glass all hot enough and connected to the lower layers to where it drags everything smoothly. But when you get the top surface hot and the underlying layer is not so hot, then you drag through there and it just splits it open. And once it does that, it tends to just, that split part will just keep, doesn't keep growing, but it opens up. And that's not what we want. You know, it's best to me to just kind of let this melt together, but you can use the marble mold to kind of hasten that process. When you're melting in like this and looking at the horizon, if you will, just the outer silhouette, try and avoid looking or thinking about the bulk of the marble. You're just looking at the outer edge. And that looks pretty smooth and orderly. Let this rest for a moment and cool down. And we'll do just a hot punty. Try and get on the center there. So this is just kind of a process here of building up the lens on the front. And you do wind up with some optical ripples, no matter how gently you try and do this, and how much I try and skim off the nastiness on the outer surface. There still tends to be some deep set areas in the glass where it basically comes down to the longer you're in the flame and heating the glass, it's changing its chemistry. It's burning out some of the flux. So when you pile up a bunch of glass, it's been cooked different lengths of time, and different sections start kind of bunching up together. And it kind of depends on the quality of the glass you start with. And you hear endless discussions online about different brands of glass, but people seem to have a lot of different experience, even if you stick to one brand or one source or whatever. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of variables. And basically any glass that you do this with is going to have certain anomalies, but you know, that's only if you look really close and the lighting is just right, and for the most part you don't really see that. There's a few things like that in glasswork where I can see it. It's annoying. I wish I could figure out how to solve some of these things. But, you know, you can't beat yourself up over it. It's just art. At the end of the day, they're like brush strokes on a canvas. Every artist is going to leave their signature in their work. It relates to the torch that I'm using, and the glass that I'm using, and the techniques that I run through. Okay, we've got a pretty good chunk of glass built up. Come out here to our constriction roller. And we're ready to attempt cleaning up the outside edge. Looking pretty good. Okay, let's see how this looks. A lot of these steps there I could cut out or edit or speed it up or whatever, but I've left a lot of this just to real time all the way through to show what it really takes. And I figure most people watching these videos are going to fast forward or buzz through or jump through different parts that aren't of interest, but this is all part of the game. Okay, my phone's trying to tell me stuff, but can't really stop and check my phone right now. One thing I've always felt kind of separates glasswork from other types of artwork is it's not something you can just step away from easily. There's certain steps that you're kind of caught up in the moment. But I love that concept of being caught up in the moment. So I'm pulling off a little more glass here. Seems like this front lens is maybe a little bit too big. Okay, start kind of shaping up that front lens. I tend to do this, don't get too serious about the overall shape of it at this stage, but just trying to get that front side to look pretty reasonable. Then I'll switch punties and work on the back side, which moves a lot slower, but it does, the majority of the rounding up happens on the colored side. Clear glass moves pretty easily, relatively easily. Oh yeah, this is very nice. See, and it's not the hexagonal of a true honeycomb. So I would hesitate to really call this a honeycomb pattern. But it's actually the pattern that I wanted. That's easy for me to say. When things don't turn out the way they should, you say, yeah, I meant it. That's exactly what I wanted. But no, really, I wanted these spots to be able to kind of see down inside them, and that's the optical effect that I was really trying to generate. The optics more than the pattern, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Okay, trying to develop that heat base into that colored section. You'd like to think this gets so screaming hot, you think, well, that isn't going to just turn into a blob and round up on its own, and it's surprisingly stubborn. So we'll come into the marble mold kind of level first. Well, this takes a little patience. just get to this point, and then I'm looking at the proportions, and I think, well, that front lens was just fine. I didn't need to take off a little bit, but that's all right. Seemed like the thing to do at the time. So trying to do this aggressive spinning to get that circumference to open up. And we can use a little bit of pressure, trying to coerce that two halves to come together and get that transition line to round out. That's the hardest part to get to fill out. It has to kind of expand to fill out the diameter. So we just take a few trips from the heat to the marble mold. Can't really spin it fast when that punty connection gets too warm. So it's kind of flopping around. So now I got enough heat there, but it's I'm trying to make smooth rotations in the marble mold. You get ripples. So you get to that point and you want to kind of keep it in the mold and actually trying to get it to kind of cool down a little bit. So when we go into the heat, we're just hitting that outside layer. So now we're transitioning from overall shape to smooth. And smooth happens in the marble mold with a fast rotation. Yeah, this turns out really, really nice. And then we've got our shape, and we've got it smooth, and now we need to flame polish. Which is kind of the ultimate smooth. Now on these colored pieces, it's with color right on the outside, like this style. These colors should blend together pretty well, but colors will have a slightly different expansion and contraction properties. So sometimes you can fiddle with this forever and you won't be completely smooth. But like I say, some of the colors will behave quite well together. These are behaving pretty well. And I got a little slight twist. That's kind of cool. One thing about Vortex marbles is there tends to be a twist going on somewhere, and that's okay. Sometimes I want and really try and generate a twist. Yeah, I'm proud I was able to add those sparkles in the background. I think that's a nice touch. Okay, and this becomes not quite a cold seal, but a warm seal. Okay, we're done cutting that off. And then we need to dig out punty glass, as it's never the same as the marble glass. And I can tell that that very front face is a bit flat, so that's I'm holding this down at an angle to try and coax that glass to kind of elongate. Okay, pause for a moment before going into the mold and set down on the back side. Then switch to a smaller marble mold to try and smooth things up. This tends to be able to allow you to rotate a lot faster. And now we can just do some heat cycles. You can't keep relying on the marble mold. You gotta just let that glass flow and smooth out the ripples. So you get it pretty hot and then let it cool down. Nope, I guess I need to knock this off in here. One more time, and then we'll kind of focus on that very front face. Because even if it's slightly flattened, as long as it has a clean, smooth curvature, you won't notice. And I don't think this is very flat on the front at this stage. That's a pretty smooth curve for me. But these kind of marbles, they can be a little bit egg-shaped or something. These tend to be pretty round when I put the calipers on them. But it's more important for it to be really smooth, not have any weird transitions. Before we put this down in the marble mold, we want to make sure it's firmed up pretty good. Flame off our little punchy mark. pretty smooth. Hey gang, thanks for hanging out. Man, this marble turned out really cool. My eyes are a little blurry at this point though. I have to step away from the torch for a few minutes. Okay, kiln's up to speed. Here we go. Off to the races now. So anyhow, all you all, take care of each other, take care of those around you, be kind, and we will see you on another adventure, another day. Till then, be chill. Take care.